Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do my weekly reading update for September 6th, 2020. Did I say that right? Gosh, I don't know. I've tried to film this a couple times and I make a mistake every time in the beginning. So we are in Labor Day weekend. I said the wrong one last time. Anyway, so it's Labor Day tomorrow. So I do have that off. So I'm really excited to have a day off. I must say August has been a hard working month just due to things that happened. Some my fault, some not. It was a hard month it was just busy. So I'm actually surprised at how many books I got done this week. I'm really pleased with what I got done, even though I wasn't quite sure how this week was gonna go. So anyway, so I'm gonna talk about the books that I read, the ones I'm in the middle of, and then what I think I'm gonna read in the next week. So to start off with, I did finish my reread of Wild Embrace by Nalini Singh. This is a collection of 4 novellas from the Side Changeling world. Do not read this before you read the rest of the series. They're not that there could be some spoils within them, but it makes much more sense when you read them between the books. Anyway, so I read these I think when it came out in 2016, and I think this is probably my 3rd read of it. I don't know, but some of these novellas are some of my favorites, so I did enjoy that. I read the last 2 that I wasn't sure I was going to pick up, because the first 2 are the ones I wanted to read, or the first one was actually the reason I picked the book up. I wanted to reread that one, and then I just kind of continued on. So again, I read this for the summer fling, so I did like a lot of Nalini Singh reread for summer fling, which is normal. And again, that was put on by Sarah at Steeped in Books for the month of August, and I did pretty well on that. And that I'll just kind of segue really quick, is that when I do my stats video, which will probably be next week, I will mention how I did on all my readathons, because I put up an update every week, it's kind of hard to maybe tell, but I did really well on my readathons, even though I was over ambitious and failed one of them. But anyway, still I did pretty good on several of them. And then on the 31st, I finished Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarska. So I said that wrong. Tokarska. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. So it's Polish. She writes in Polish, translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. So again, I picked this up. It was on my TBR. It's the book I've had that I've been wanting to read for, like, I don't know, maybe a year. Like most of these books, like they sit on my shelf for a long time. So this one I read for Women in Translation Readathon. That was done the last week of the month, put on by Matthew Sciappa, Kendra Winchester, and Jennifer at insert literary pun here. So I could have read this earlier in the month, because I read a lot of Women in Translation in August, because that's the month is theme. And again, I read quite a few books, but I of course waited till the last week, because that's what I do. And then I had trouble with this. In my last update, I told you I got to 240 and I didn't know what to do, and I asked for some help. I got one answer back, which is fine. And I did decide I was going to skim it, but I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a couple more pages and then see what happens. And it actually did work after those couple pages. So I came to the realization that I just had some kind of a break. Because I stopped this book and another book that I'll talk about later. I just stopped and, like, I can't read this anymore, because it was just upsetting my equilibrium or something. Like, I just got angry at the characters, and my tolerance was really low for characters doing stupid things. And I think that just hit that weekend when I was reading, or that week when I read these books. So I'm glad I went back and I actually read the last 26 pages or 28 pages or so. And it did make sense. I did enjoy it by the end. There's that one point at 240 pages that I was just upset about. So anyway, this is a story about a woman who, I think, she's probably in her 60s, and she's living in a community where they're mostly summer homes. And so she stays all year round. There's 2 other men who are also kind of hermit-like and kind of odd, who also live there, and kind of they're the only ones out here in this kind of wilderness area, not close to town. And it's kind of her quirky way of telling the story of this year. of what happens when one of them is found dead and the kind of consequences and things that happened after that. And again, I really liked the way this went. It was not a mystery in the sense that I expected. It really went in odd ways of how things would go along and nothing would happen, you know, mystery-wise for a long time. It was just really the quirky character. She's an oddball. And I think, as I said, 240, I came to like a complete halt because she did something. I'm like, you dork, don't do that. Like, just, and I got upset. And I think, but I get it now, but it still is a hard point to get over. So don't read this when you're sensitive to what your characters do. Like, you don't. Anyway, I'll push through. I don't know. It was really worth it in the end. I'm glad I read it. It still docked for me because that experience, it was so, like, it was really hard for me to pick this book up. And it took me 6 days to pick it up again after I dropped it or set it down. And I was 28, you know, 20 some pages from the end. So anyway, but overall, I really enjoyed that experience. I'm glad I read that. It was off my TBR and I read it for that readathon, which I was really glad about. So, let's see here. What else? I think this is what I finished. I finished my audiobook on Friday. Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee by Casey Sepp. This came out last year. I listened to it on audio by Hillary Huber. This was a book my dad got at a library book sale we went to in February, the last one we've been able to go to. And he read it earlier this summer, and then he gave it to me when I finally got to see him last month on my vacation, and so I said I would read it, and I picked it up much sooner than I thought I would. I got the audio from the library because I was listening to a lot of nonfiction for the History Challenge. So this didn't come in time for me to listen to it for the History Challenge, but I read quite a few books for that, so I'm not quite so mad about that because that was put on by Emma, a couple books. See, all my readathons. These are all my finishing things for readathons. But I did, I think I started it on the 30th, so I didn't get very far during that month. But I did finish it out this week on Friday, and I did enjoy this. It's really weird. It's a story about Reverend Willie Maxwell and how people around him were dying off in the 70s. And then at the funeral of one of his supposed victims, he is shot and killed. And then it's the trial of the man who shot him, and also it talks about the lawyer who was really involved with the Reverend beforehand with his insurance claims on his relatives who were passing away mysteriously, as well as then he took the defense. He was the defender of the man who shot him. So very interesting. I thought that was all really good. Very, you know, very classic true crime way this book was written. And then the last section was on Harper Lee and how she took an interest in the case and was going to write a true crime book on it. Now, she helped Truman Capote with In Cold Blood. It was a lot of her notes that helped him write that book because she was much better at observing and remembering what people said, even though he still did his own thing with In Cold Blood, which I really want to reread now, but I'm like, I mean, I've read it. It's many, like, decades, but the point is I'm now like, I want to reread that book. Anyway, so, but Harper Lee wanted to do this, write a book on this, and it's kind of that story of why that didn't happen, or, you know, what happened with all that, and more on her life that I did not know. So it was very interesting. I really liked this overall. I'm not going to say it was a spectacular or a perfect book, but it was what it was. It said, this is what it was, and this is what it did. It didn't make any, we can't really know what the Reverend Willie Maxwell actually, how he killed people, because we don't actually know. And I think it's really interesting that we got that. We're not quite sure, but he was suspected, and there was a little voodoo in there, and it was a really interesting story. And I'm glad my dad picked it up and got me to read it. Again, I said I saw it going around the rounds on BookTube, I think last year for Nonfiction November. So anyway, so I got through that, and again, I listened to that on audio from my library. And then, oops, sorry. Earlier, so then during the week I read, this is the book I was reading, was Embers of War by Garth L. Powell. I'm doing this for Space Opera September, the one readathon I'm participating in September, because I decided I better back off again. So this is a book on a sentient spacecraft that is going that is part of a group called the House of Reclamation, and this is an ex-military ship that has been decommissioned or had its weapons taken off because of what happened in the war 3 years earlier, and this is now the crew is all kind of traumatized from what happened in the war, so they're all also part of this rescue crew that goes out and helps ships that are spaceships that are downed or are in trouble. So they do a lot of rescue stuff. So it's a really small crew, but they have a big ship that they can take on a lot of survivors. So it starts out with them, you know, doing one rescue, and then another really big one comes up that space liner or cruise liner that has a lot of tourists are in an area of space that's kind of disputed, and so something happens and there's a distress signal sent out from the liner, and then there's a perspective of people who are on the liner and what is happening there. So again, very epic. It's going, I think this is going to get much bigger from where it starts, but I think this was such a fun book. It was short chapters, and it was, I'm pretty sure there's like 4 perspectives. I'm just my brain, well, there might be 5. There's 5 perspectives, 3 female, 2 male. Well, I'm guessing the guy's a male. I don't know. One of them is an alien. Let's put it that way. And it's just kind of interesting. They're very short, and I think they're very distinct, but they're all told in first person. So gotta know that going in. That was a weird, jarring thing for me. Only the prologue is not in first person. Everything else is. But each chapter would say who was the character, so at least you know whose perspective you're coming from. So he at least gives you a warning about that. So anyway, I really enjoyed this. I picked it up from the library once before when it first, or maybe a little after it came out, and I only read a few pages and I just didn't get into it that day, and then I returned it to the library because I didn't have time to read it. And so I always wanted to come back to it, so I bought a copy online thinking I was going to get a good deal. Well, no, I got an ex-library copy, which isn't great, but it's fine. It worked for my reading. Anyway, so I'm going to probably try to pick up the second book. I might try to get it from my library again, but probably not right away. But again, it's a trilogy, so it's completed. I should be able to get it. I don't know. And I've heard really good things about the rest of the series. So again, I'm glad I read the first book. I really enjoyed this. And I'm excited to continue on. And it was my first book finished for Space Opera September. And then the last thing, oops, I finished. Where is my, oh, did I lose it? No, here it is. So I read yesterday morning The Ghost Line by Andrew Nell Gray and J.S. Herbison. So they are a writing duo, male and female, who wrote this little space story. It was 145 pages. I think I saw this on Shannon Ridler's channel sometime last year or something. I don't know. It's one I had on my, like, I bought Kindle quite a while ago on some sale and never read it, and so it popped up and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I have a ghost one. So this was about a crew going to another space cruise liner that is now decommissioned. Oops, sorry, my little thing just messed up my phone. Anyway, it's a cruise liner, and it's been decommissioned for like 20 years, and it's kind of have this, it's just going back and forth between Earth and Mars just to keep this lane open kind of thing. And some company wants to take it out, like have it go off course so that they can take over that route and they can build a new ship and they can make it how they want, and they don't have this stupid old cruise liner going back and forth. Anyway, it's kind of a weird, that part starts. So anyway, so they're going to the ship, and then weird things start happening once they get there. That's about all I'm gonna say. It was interesting. I don't think I liked it that well. It had the spooky elements of, you know, like old hotels and old, you know, things. Like it had that part where, you know, there were weird things that would pop up and things would change and stuff. And again, it had the technology stuff. It had the, you know, the rich cruise liner, you know, things that were happening in there. It was just, it went in weird directions and nothing that I expected, I guess. So I didn't thoroughly enjoy it. I didn't say it was bad. It was really just middle of the road. It was fine. It was okay. It was okay. So I finished that. So I don't know. It's, you know. Okay, I just lost the next thing I was going to put on here, so. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so then let's talk about the books I'm in the middle of. The audiobook I'm listening to now is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's narrated by him. And I'm about 47% of the way through. Again, I got it from my library, and I've been on the hold list like all summer. So I finally got it. So this is his memoir written to his 15-year-old son about his experiences and his growing up and racism and just worldly things of way of looking at being a black man and things that they have to worry about and things. It's really interesting how he keeps focusing on the body and how the body is important and how it is showed and how it is used or thought people think it should be used kind of thing. It's a very, very powerful writing. I think it's, again, my first thing that I've read by him. So again, so far I'm enjoying his writing style, and I'm halfway through. So I'm trying to still pick up books that are relevant to today, as in these kind of things, and just I'm getting them from my library when I can. So this is the one I'm listening to right now. So I probably will finish that up in the next couple of days, because it's not super long, but again, I don't have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm not gonna be in the car much. So I'll probably be in the middle of the week. And then then this is the funny one. Sorry. So I did get the Moomin. This is the collection number 1 of the complete Tove Jansson comic strip. There's like 8 or 9 volumes of these, I think, of this size. So this is only 4 sections. It's almost 100 pages of comics. Again, let's see here, so you can see Moomin and his family. Anyway, so these are weird. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I don't even know how I feel about this. I think they're funny, and I think I think they're just okay. Like, I don't care enough. I mean, I know people love Moomin, and I know some people, of course, have read them maybe when they're little, and it's more funnier, but to me, I'm just like, whatever. And the only reason I read this is because I'd heard about them, and I knew somebody was, I think it's Read a Book Gem. I saw her talk about having a Moomin August of some sort, some kind of readathon, and I didn't see it until she did a wrap up. And but I'd gotten it from my library because I'd read the summer book by Tove Jansson, and again, this was, I didn't forgot, this is translated. So or it should be translated. I don't know if where the translator note is on this thing. I don't know if they have one, because it is. They don't have the translated note. But I'm sure this was written in Swedish first, and then they translated at some point. It's not listed in there. That's weird. Anyway, so I have 3 sections done. I have 1 more section, and then I'm done with this book. And I'm not going to read any more of them. They're okay. So this is probably going back to the library pretty soon. And then I just realized I forgot one. So just a little aside, I did read this last night, is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is a little, cute little book. And this is a book about a vampire and a werewolf who meet and fall in love. And it's just so cute. And they're comics. A little love story. Look at that, they're so cute. Sarah, they just have their own little, they have the little stories and stuff. I saw these online earlier this year, and then she said she had a book coming out with the whole collection of them, because she put up a lot of these I'd seen before, but not all of them. So it was great to have the whole collection together. I think they're so cute. I just love them because they talk about like killing things or how many people they've killed, and taking blood for people, or he doesn't feel human once a month, it's just funny. Anyway, so again, I got this really cool little version. It's a little hardback, but it's got black. It's like, I did just get that in the mail this week, but I did read that. I forgot about that. Sorry. Anyway, so the other book I'm in the middle of is leftover from Women in Translation. This book finally showed up from my library. I was hoping to get it all month because I ordered it, and they kept saying that they were just getting it processed, and finally I get it after after August. So anyway, this kind of carries over. This is The Disaster Tourist by Yoon Ko-in, and this is translated from the Korean by Lizzie Bueller. And it's actually on the cover, which is awesome. So this is weird. So I had heard about this book coming out, and I definitely, that's why I asked for it from my library right away. They were already purchasing it, so I just had to be the first one on the list, so I'm the first one to get this. So this is a book about a woman called Kona who works for a travel agency that puts together tour packages that send them to disaster areas. So they go to places that have had a disaster and that things are still happening from it, or there's the after effects so they can see how things were destroyed, or they go to ones where there's actually it just happened, like a tsunami had just happened, and they actually go and do volunteer work or go to help with the cleanup. And so there's different kinds of packages people could have. I mean, there's supposed to be one about Centralia where that's where the fire underground from the coal is still on fire today, and it's been like 50 some years or something. So it's interesting, like the places they pick. So she has some issues at work. Something has changed and suddenly everybody's against her, and she goes to resign because she's been there 10 years and she's like doesn't know what to do, but she doesn't know what else. She has to get out because it's a horrible situation. And her boss gives her an option that she goes on this trip to check one of the disaster packages that isn't doing so and find out what the problem is. And so she agrees to go. So she's on vacation, but not, kind of thing. So she goes with a small group to a small island called Mui I think it's off of Vietnam. And so it has to do with a desert that has a sinkhole, and the disaster was back in the 60s, and how there was tribes that were fighting at the time, and then there's a whole story with that. So anyway, I'm like 62 pages in of 200 pages, so I'm over a quarter of the way through, but still, I'm not quite sure where this is going. So it's been interesting so far. It was really hard to read the first part with her in the office and how the things were going bad there. Because I was like, oh my gosh, get out of the situation, leave. But, anyway. But I'm enjoying this enough that I will continue, and I'll hopefully finish that off today. That'll be good. So then let's talk about what I think I'm going to read into the next week. My audiobook I'm going to listen to after Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm going to return to Romantic Outlaws, The Extraordinary Lives of Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley by Charlotte Gordon. I forgot to write down the narrator, so I will get that for next time. Anyway, I read the first 110 pages on audio back in May, and then I just set it down one day because I didn't feel like doing audiobooks anymore because that was during the middle of the whole quarantine stuff, and I was home a lot, but I didn't listen to much. So anyway, so this just has been sitting here, and I really would like to finish it and get that done. So again, it was really fascinating to read about Mary Shelley and her mother and the differences in their lives and the similarities. So it was really interesting. So I do want to get to that, although I have one more book on hold from the library that is a reread that I might listen to that before that one. But that's the one I think I'm going to listen to next. We'll see. I also would like to return to The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. This is the first book in the Bridgerton series. Again, I've never read any Julia Quinn. This is the first one of her books. And so far I found it really funny. But I reached a point at 46 pages, I was like, I'm done for a while. Like, I was upset about just, again, as I said, I had that week where several books made me go, oh, I don't want to read this, and I put it down. So this is the other one, the last one I have that I have not finished, that I put down. So I'd like to finish it. It was For the Summer Fling that was put on by Sarah at Steepton Books. Or no, she's now called the Bookish Knitter, but at the point she was steeped, anyway. I don't know. Point is, I want to finish this For the Summer Fling, even though it's late. And again, I want to decide, because I really was enjoying the first part, and I was already thinking about buying the whole series. So now I want to finish this book to see if I really still feel that way about it. Again, historical, has to do with the Regency, where a woman she's the first of her 8 siblings. She's the first girl that's reached maturity, so that she's out, and she's not like, she's getting marriage proposals from people who are way too old for her, or people who she doesn't like have any interest in at all. And her family's at least really good about not forcing her to marry, but they're worried that she's going to be put on the shelf. And then a man who had just become a duke because his father passed away, who did not have a good relationship with his father, is now the duke, and he's pretty much against marriage. But he goes into they decide to fake court so that she would get more attention, and then things go from there, because it never goes the way they plan, right? So anyway, I do need to return to that, and I think I'm going to pick up To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers is my next space opera September pick. This takes place again, it's the author of the Wayfarer series, and she this book is not related to that, and it's like a couple hundred years in the future, and these people are out into space somewhere. They're like really far away from the Earth, and so they're sending back what happened. So I'm not sure, like in a message, but it's going to take like years to get back, and to get a response back it'd be just as long. So I don't know. I've just heard good things about that, at least to read it, and I wanted to get to that. And then the book that I'm really pretty sure that I will probably pick up before, well, I mean, I might even pick it up before the Duke. I'm not sure how much I read today and tomorrow, but on Tuesday, The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart is coming out, and I'm so excited for this. Again, I know Andrea personally, but I've not read this book. I've only read the first chapter online. It's a trilogy, supposed to be a new epic fantasy series. Asian-inspired islands with an emperor who takes bone shards from children to create like constructs of some sort, and it's following his daughter, who is not really his heir. Like he doesn't want to claim her as his heir yet. But she's trying to learn the magic to try to be the one to take over, because she wants to make sure things change in the world. And I think there's going to be some other characters we just didn't get in the first chapter. But anyway, I'm really excited about this. Again, I'm really proud of her. It's awesome. And it comes out on Tuesday. So I bought it from my independent bookstore. So I'm going to probably read it, hopefully sometime this week. That is everything. Oh my gosh, I had a lot. I did finish a lot of things, which is great. Some of them were in process, and you know, some were new. And then I have plans to finish up a few things, and then start that epic fantasy series, which is going to kill me when I get to the end of it. And there's no other, her book. She's editing book 2 right now, so it's going to be a little bit before I get the next book. But still, I'm going to read that next probably. Anyway, so what are you guys reading? Have you guys read anything good this week? Did you, have you read any of these books? What did you think? Did you have the same opinions I did? I was all over the board at Corsican things, which I think is great. Is my kind of reading. I'm all over the place. I like it. But I am focusing on science fiction this month, but of course I'm throwing in a big fantasy in the middle of that with romance and translated works, and I'm all over the place. It's just fun. Anyway, so I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.